Right now, somewhere in a US or NATO logistics depot, a military planner is looking at an armored vehicle that needs to move fast and an aircraft that can't carry it cleanly. Not weight, width. That is the constraint, and it has been quietly degrading Western airlift operations for years. Not in classified reports, not in think tank analyses. In the actual time it takes to load a vehicle, sort a manifest, and get an aircraft off the ground. Modern armored vehicles have grown wider. The aircraft designed to carry them mostly have not. The consequence? Deployment windows missed. Sorties that don't work. Equipment that should move by air, moving by slower means, or not moving at all. In a fast-breaking crisis, that is not a delay. That is a mission failure. Units don't hold positions they can't reach. Equipment doesn't matter if it isn't there. In December 2025, short video clips began circulating online. A large, 4-engine turboprop transport lifting off from a runway in China. Grainy, a few seconds long, but the silhouette was unmistakable. High wing, T-tail, 4 propellers. Within hours, analysts were pointing at the same conclusion. The Y-30, a program that had existed for over a decade as a rumor, then a scale model, then nothing. So quiet that most serious analysts had concluded it was dead. It was not. What makes this aircraft significant is not what it weighs, not what it costs, not even that China built it. It is what it was designed to solve. The Y-30 was not built to carry more weight than its rivals. It was built to carry what Western systems still struggle to move at all. To understand why this aircraft matters, you have to understand the hole it was designed to fill. Not because the gap is large on paper, because it is the right shape. For decades, China's tactical airlift ran on a single aircraft family. The Y-8, a Soviet-era design derived from the Antonov In-12. Reliable, adaptable, dozens of variants, but structurally frozen in the design logic of a different era. China introduced the Y-9 with modernized engines and updated avionics. Meaningful on paper, in practice, the same fundamental airframe. The underlying constraints were inherited, not resolved. At the far end, the Y-20 strategic airlifter, capable of moving heavy loads across intercontinental distances. Expensive, operationally demanding, limited in fleet numbers, built for logistics at scale, not for the fast, flexible, forward missions that define the tempo of regional conflict. Military airlift doesn't function only at the extremes. Most missions live in the middle, moving armored vehicles between bases, pushing engineering units forward, getting time-critical supplies into position without depending on major established airfields. China had nothing for that middle, not a capability gap, a hard stop, and a hard stop in the wrong moment isn't a setback. It's a collapse. In a fast-moving conflict in the Indo-Pacific, across island chains, against compressed timelines, with limited forward infrastructure, a hard stop is not a planning problem. It is a defeat condition. The Y-30 appears designed to break through it. Positioned between the Y-9 and the Y-20, it would give China what it has never had, genuine medium tactical airlift capable of rapid regional deployment at scale. Once analysts mapped that gap carefully, the question wasn't just why China needed it. The question was why it had taken this long, and what the delay had cost. The first public signal appeared in 2014. Then the program went silent for a decade. That silence is not a footnote. That silence is evidence of something going seriously wrong. At the 2014 Zhuhai Air Show, visitors found a scale model inside the main exhibition halls. High-wing transport, T-tail, and 4 turboprop engines, larger than anything China was operating, smaller than the Y-20 still entering service. No specifications, no timeline, no announcement, a model with no program attached to it. Analysts cataloged it, assigned the designation Y-30, and waited for more. Nothing came. No prototype, no test flights, no appearances at subsequent exhibitions. In defense development, silence of that duration at that stage means one of two things: deliberate secrecy or internal collapse. For years, most serious analysts believed the second explanation, and they had reason to. A nation with China's industrial capacity and stated strategic objectives does not simply lose interest in a critical airlift gap. Programs disappear for specific reasons. Engine development failures, structural design problems requiring fundamental rethinking, funding redirected under political pressure, competing priorities inside a system simultaneously developing the Y-20, the J-20, and next-generation naval platforms. Any of those would explain a decade of silence. All of them together would explain a program that had to be rebuilt from the inside rather than simply continued. What the December 2025 footage implies is not that the program proceeded quietly on schedule. It implies the program hit a wall, and then eventually found a way through it. What changed? What was rebuilt? We don't know. That is the point. And the fact that we don't know matters more than it might appear. This is where the story stops being about one aircraft. For decades, military transport procurement ran on one metric: payload. How much weight can the aircraft carry? That logic made sense when vehicles were designed to fit the aircraft that moved them. Then the vehicles got wider. The aircraft didn't. Modern armored platforms, wheeled vehicles, mine-resistant carriers, infantry transports with add-on systems have grown in external profile. Reactive armor, electronic packages, equipment racks, not always heavier, wider. Many now approach 3 meters in operational configuration. The C-130's cargo hold measures slightly over 3 meters wide. On paper, that works. In the field, it doesn't. Not cleanly, not under pressure, not across dozens of sorties with different crews in different conditions. Loading rails consume clearance. Tie-down equipment consumes clearance. Crew access lanes consume clearance. The safety margins required for repeatable operational loading consume whatever remains. The usable margin collapses. Sorties slow. Operations slow. And in a contested environment, slow is not an inconvenience. Slow is a strategic liability that compounds with every hour. This is documented. US and NATO logistics planners have spent years building workarounds, modified procedures, adjusted configurations, planning assumptions calibrated to what the aircraft can actually do, not what the specification sheet claims. The workarounds exist because the constraint is real. The A400M addressed some of it. The Y30 appears to have been designed around it from the start. Not, how much weight can this aircraft lift? But, what is the widest vehicle this aircraft needs to carry? Reliably, at pace, on every sortie? That is a different question. It produces a different aircraft. Western planners know this constraint exists. The question is whether they have a ready answer for a competitor that appears to have solved. If the aircraft in that December 2025 footage is the Y30, it doesn't enter the airlift landscape as a curiosity. It enters as a direct competitive challenge to platforms the West has relied on for a generation, in the specific category where that reliance has been most taken for granted. Larger than the C-130, smaller than the A400M, built to do what neither does efficiently. The C-130 is one of the most operationally proven aircraft in history. It is also built on the geometry of an era when vehicles were designed to fit inside it. The C-130J is an outstanding upgrade. It is not a solution to the width problem. The world those specifications were written for no longer exists. The West has been flying the answer to the wrong question. The A400M is Europe's answer, genuine heavy tactical capability at the higher end of the medium category. But it carries greater cost, greater complexity, and runway requirements that disqualify it from many forward locations. Not every crisis unfolds near an airfield that can support it. 2 platforms, 2 different sets of limitations. Neither solves the constraint that is now defining the operational gap. And both have been the only options for decades. The Y30, if it performs as estimated, offers what neither currently delivers: 30-ton payload, short field capability, and a cargo bay built around the vehicles modern armies actually field. That combination matters. It matters right now, in the theater that matters most. If this aircraft reaches operational service, China's ability to move armored equipment across the Indo-Pacific shifts. Without the infrastructure dependencies strategic airlift demands, deployment timelines that US and allied planners have built assumptions around become unreliable. The planning models need to be rebuilt, not eventually. Now, that is a current problem that gets harder the moment this aircraft enters a fleet. There's an export dimension. China has a track record of offering military aviation at competitive price points. A credible medium transport position between the C-130 and A400M, one that solves the width problem both have, finds a ready market. Countries evaluating airlift procurement would have a new option. Not American, not European. A direct erosion of a Western competitive position that has been effectively uncontested in this category for decades. The Y30 doesn't need to outperform the C-130J on every metric to reshape the landscape. It only needs to perform where the C-130J can't. Almost every critical technical detail about this aircraft is unconfirmed. That is not a gap in journalism. It is a gap in Western situational awareness. and gaps in situational awareness get people killed. Propulsion is the most important open question. Early documentation pointed toward 4 turboprop engines in the 4 to 5,000 kilowatt class. If accurate, total shaft power would significantly exceed most existing tactical transport platforms. The footage is consistent with that configuration. If those numbers hold, the implications are disruptive, not incremental. Some program variants studded turbofan engines for cruise efficiency, similar in logic to the Brazilian C390. The turboprop configuration in the footage suggests the final design prioritized short-field performance and forward-basing flexibility, exactly the capability profile China needs for regional power projection. That choice, if confirmed, means this aircraft was optimized for the fight China is actually preparing for, not a generic transport mission. The official designation remains uncertain. Y-30, based on the 2014 Zhuhai model, possibly Y-15. China has been deliberate about what it reveals. The ambiguity is not accidental. It is managed. Published estimates: payload near 30 tons, maximum takeoff weight approaching 80 tons, range between 6 and 7,000 kilometers, unverified. External analysis of a program designed to resist external analysis. Here is the operational reality. Western planners cannot currently determine whether the Y-30 closes a modest gap or decisive one. They cannot confirm short-field performance under load. They cannot verify cargo bay dimensions against the specific vehicles that matter. They are making decisions, now, today, based on a capability they cannot measure. That is not an intelligence gap. That is a decision-making problem under adversarial uncertainty. Plans built on wrong assumptions about this aircraft's capability will fail at the moment they are tested. And when those plans are tested, it will not be in a briefing room. It will be in a deployment window that closes before the right aircraft arrives, in a position that can't be held because the equipment that should have been there wasn't. The world has seen a few seconds of footage, enough to confirm the aircraft exists, not nearly enough to understand what changes when it enters service. Those are two very different things, and the distance between them is where strategic risk lives. A single test flight is just a data point, but this one arrived at a specific moment, and it didn't arrive by accident. The constraint driving this aircraft, the width problem, the geometric mismatch between modern vehicles and the aircraft built to move them, has existed in Western airlift fleets for years. It was not created by China. China built an aircraft designed to solve it. That is a different thing entirely. The Indo-Pacific is the defining strategic theater of this era. Island chains, contested sea lanes, compressed deployment windows, limited forward infrastructure. A region where the speed at which armored equipment moves from a base to a position can determine the outcome of a crisis before it becomes a conflict. US and NATO planners have spent years adapting around the constraints of their available airlift. Workarounds, modified procedures, configurations designed to fit aircraft rather than the other way around. China spent that same period building a different answer. If the Y-30 reaches operational service, still far from certain, with years of qualification testing ahead, it changes the calculation China's adversaries have to run. Not because it is the largest aircraft, not because it is the fastest, because it carries the vehicles that matter, at the dimensions they actually occupy, from the runways that forward deployment actually requires. This development was always coming. The width constraint has been unresolved in Western systems for long enough that any serious competitor was eventually going to build around it. That was not a question of capability. It was a question of time. China got there first. The Y-30 is not about carrying more weight. It is about carrying what Western systems have spent a generation struggling to move. China didn't close the airlift gap by building a bigger aircraft. It closed the gap by understanding which gap actually mattered, and solving it while the West was still working around it.